Hello, horror aficionados, and welcome to Dark and Haunting Tales. Get ready to be thrilled and chilled as we present a collection of terrifying horror stories special. But beware, these stories aren't for the faint of heart. Be advised, they'll make your blood run cold and keep you awake at night. So whether you're driving, in work, or on your bed getting ready to sleep, whatever you're doing, get ready to embark on this harrowing journey with us. As always, are you ready to be terrified? Well, let's begin. Halloween month had finally arrived, and my friends and I were in the mood for some spooky fun. We'd heard the tale of the old, decrepit house on the outskirts of town, where the spirits of three sisters were said to linger. Their anguished cries echoed through the halls, and everyone knew not to enter the house around this time of year. That's exactly why we decided to go. The house stood there, a looming shadow in the dimming daylight, its windows cracked, and the woods weathered from years of neglect. As we approached, leaves rustled ominously in the wind. There was an unsettling silence, and the air felt charged with an unexplainable heaviness.
Are you guys sure about this?
Sarah's voice quivered as she clung to my arm. We exchanged uncertain glances, but our bravado took over.
Of course, it's just a legend, and Halloween's all about spooky stuff.
Mark declared, trying to sound confident. With hesitant steps, we pushed the creaking door open and ventured into the house. The floorboards groaned beneath our feet as we entered the dimly lit interior. Dust hung in the air, and cobwebs dragged like ghostly curtains from the ceiling. We made our way through the house, our flashlights guiding us through the labyrinth of forgotten rooms. The story said that the sisters have perished in this very house, their anguished spirits never finding peace. As we wandered, the atmosphere grew colder and more oppressive.
Do you feel that?
Lisa whispered, her breath visible in the frigid air.
Probably just the wind.
I muttered, trying to convince myself, but there was no denying the whispers we heard. Faint ghostly voices that seemed to call out our names from unseen corners. Panic began to creep in as we strained to make out the words.
Who's there?
Mark called out, his voice trembling. Suddenly, the air seemed to come alive with a chilling presence. We turned our flashlights in all directions, revealing three spectral figures. They were the sisters, their faces contorted in pain, their eyes empty and forlorn. My heart raced, and my voice was a whisper. It can't be real, right? Lisa's voice quivered.
They look so sad.
One of the ghostly sisters extended the wispy hand towards us, her fingers passing through the air like smoke. Her voice, barely audible, was filled with longing.
Help us!
The other two sisters joined in, their anguished pleas echoing through the house. Their cries sent shivers down our spines.
Let's get out of here.
Mark shouted, his fear finally overcoming his bravado. We turned to flee, but the sisters' mournful wails seemed to surround us, blocking our escape. Panic set in as they reached out to us with ethereal hands. Their grasp ice cold and hunting. As we tried to break free, the sisters' eyes filled with sorrow and desperation, and their ghostly cries grew louder. We could feel their pain as if it were our own. Just when it seemed we were trapped, Mark grabbed a piece of old wood and made a hasty but effective barricade, keeping the spirits at bay. With fear-stricken faces, we fled from the house, our hearts pounding and our ears filled with the ghostly cries of the sisters. Outside, the moon hung low on the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the old house. We knew the legend of the ghostly sisters was no mere story. We had encountered their anguished spirits, and it was an experience we would never forget. As we looked back at the house, it seemed to have grown even darker, a place forever haunted by the tormented souls of the sisters. That Halloween night was a chilling reminder that some legends carry a truth that is far more terrifying than any mere tale. When Christine, my wife now, and I, James, were teenagers and hadn't yet become parents, Halloween night had always been one of our favorite times of the year. We loved the spooky atmosphere, the haunted houses, and the thrill of the unknown. But one Halloween night, many years ago, we encountered something far more sinister than any ghost or ghoul we'd ever imagined. The night was chilly, and the wind had a bite to it. Christine and I were dressed as a pair of zombies, and we thought we were the coolest kids in town. Our plan was simple: meet up with our friends and go trick-or-treating in the spookiest part of town, the old abandoned neighborhood. As we made our way through the eerie streets, we couldn't help but feel a sense of fear. The houses were dark, windows boarded up, and the wind whispered through the trees like a spectral choir. Our friends laughed and joked, but deep down, we all knew that this place held secrets. We approached a particularly run-down house, its paint peeling and the lawn overgrown with weeds. It stood in stark contrast to the well-lit, decorated homes of the town's main street. A dim light flickered behind the tattered curtains, and shadows danced on the walls. We decided to knock on the door, not expecting any answer. To our surprise, the door creaked open slowly, revealing a pale, disheveled man in his 40s, dressed in tattered clothes. His eyes were hollow, and his face bore the signs of a difficult life. But what sent shivers down our spine were his words: "You should leave. Now." He muttered in a raspy voice. His gaze locked on us with an unsettling intensity. Our friends exchanged uneasy glances, and I cleared my throat.
Sorry. We didn't mean to disturb you. It's just Halloween, you know?
He shook his head slowly, his eyes never leaving us.
You don't understand. The darkness, it's coming.
At that moment, we noticed the walls inside were adorned with strange symbols and eerie drawings. The air in the house was heavy and oppressive, as if it held a dark secret. My girlfriend, Christine, stepped forward, concern in her voice.
Is everything okay, sir?
But his response was far from reassuring.
This night, it's not like any other. You must go. or it will find you.
His cryptic warning sent a chill down our spines. We thanked the man, though unease lingered, and we decided to continue our Halloween adventure elsewhere. As we walked away from the house, the atmosphere grew colder, and an inexplicable sense of dread settled upon us. We kept hearing eerie whispers carried on the wind. Our friends laughed it off, but Christine and I exchanged worried glances. Moments later, we heard a low growl, and our group turned to find the man from the house following us. His expression has changed from cryptic to something much more sinister.
You should have listened.
He hissed, his voice now filled with malice. Panic set in as we realized we were being pursued by this dangerous stranger. We made a run for it, our hearts pounding and the fear of the unknown nipping at our heels. With every corner we turned, the man was right behind us, his footsteps growing louder and more menacing. We knew we had to get back to the safety of the well-lit streets and away from this creepy man who was now clearly a threat. We didn't stop running until we reached the heart of town, where the Halloween festivities were in full swing. The man, for some inexplicable reason, halted on the edge of the well-lit street and disappeared into the darkness, never to be seen again. Years have passed since that Halloween night, but Christine and I still shudder at the memory of the creepy and dangerous man. We will never know what he meant by the darkness, but that night it felt all too real. It was a chilling reminder that sometimes the line between fantasy and reality can blur on Halloween, and the unexpected dangers that may lurk in the darkness can be far more terrifying than any costume or decoration. In a quaint little town, nestled amidst the rolling hills and dense forests, we used to hear a chilling tale, the legend of the Headless Horseman. The story goes that long ago, a fearsome horseman met a gruesome end, losing his head in a terrible accident. Now condemned to roam the night, once every year on Halloween, he searches relentlessly for his severed head, and whoever crosses his path is said to meet a dreadful fate. On a crisp Halloween autumn evening, my friends and I gathered around a crackling bonfire at my family's farm. The stars were out, and the moon bathed the countryside in its eerie glow. As we huddled around the fire, swapping spooky stories and sipping hot cider, the topic of the Headless Horseman arose.
Come on, guys.
Mike challenged, a mischievous grin spreading across his face.
We've all heard the story a million times, but has anyone here actually seen the Headless Horseman?
A chorus of nervous laughter followed as we exchanged uneasy glances. But curiosity got the better of us, and before we knew it, we were planning a late-night adventure to prove the legend wrong. We wanted to show that the Headless Horseman was nothing more than a spooky tale meant to scare kids. As the night grew darker, we set out on our quest, armed with flashlights and a sense of youthful bravado. The air grew chilly, and the forest that seemed friendly during the day now appeared eerie and dense. We ventured deep into the woods, our flashlights piercing the darkness. The sound of leaves crushing beneath our feet was the only thing to break the silence. Nervous laughter and whispered jokes echoed through the trees. But beneath the bravado, I could sense an undercurrent of unease. Hours passed, and our initial excitement began to wane. We had explored deeper into the woods than ever before, and the distant glow of the bonfire at the farm had all but vanished. That's when we heard it. The distant sound of hooves, growing closer and closer. Panic set in as we realized that we were not alone in the forest. The hoofbeats were rhythmic, relentless, and they echoed ominously through the night. A chill ran down my spine as we huddled together, our flashlights trembling. The legend suddenly felt very real, and we began to wonder if we had made a grave mistake. The hoofbeats grew louder, and the shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, mounted on a horse. It was the Headless Horseman, just as the legend had described. A headless rider with a jagged stump where his head should be. Fear gripped us as the horseman drew closer, his ghostly presence casting a sinister pall over the forest. We were paralyzed with terror, unable to move or speak. The horseman's horse reared up, its fiery eyes blazing, and it let out an otherworldly scream. Then, with a swift motion, the horseman raised a wickedly sharp sword and pointed it towards us.
Run!
Mike finally yelled, snapping us out of our stupor. We scattered in all directions, branches and thorns tearing at our clothes as we fled through the dark woods. The hoofbeats and the eerie laughter of the Headless Horseman echoed behind us, growing fainter as we put distance between us and the supernatural rider. We finally stumbled back into the clearing at the farm, gasping for breath. The horseman had not followed us out of the woods, and the night fell silent once more. The legend of the Headless Horseman was no longer just a spooky story to us. It was a terrifying reality we had encountered. That night, we learned that sometimes legends are based on something far more sinister than mere imagination, and some stories are best left untold. Thank you guys for joining us on this Halloween special of terrifying and chilling stories. If you enjoyed these terrifying tales, don't forget to like, turn on post notifications so you can be updated on everything new we upload, and subscribe to be part of our growing community of horror aficionados. Until next time, sleep tight if you can.